Okay, let me get together. Let me get my screen up so we can share. All right, can you ladies see my screen?
Yes, I can.
All right, then, so that means that we are live and everyone else can see my screen as well. Um, Welcome to Wanderlust Wednesdays, everyone. My name is Lori Overton, and I am your host for this webinar series. This is the series that takes you on fantastic voyages all around the world. And today, I am so excited because today we are staying right here in the US of A. So we are going to explore places here in our own country, and we are going to explore the Civil Rights Tour. And we're going to explore between Atlanta to Memphis, and we're stops along the way. We're going to go from Atlanta, Montgomery, um, Selma, we hit Birmingham, we hit Tupelo, Mississippi, and then we end in Mississippi. So we hit a lot on this tour. And the purpose of this webinar today is to tell you about this tour, to get you excited about this tour, and to get you motivated to learn about the civil rights movement of the 1950s and the 60s and the applications for today. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And before we get started, I just want to let you guys know that I have the pleasure today to be joined by two experts in the field. So today I have with me Miss Marion Wynn, and she's from the Montgomery Chamber of Commerce. And when she comes on at the end, I'll let her give more detailed introduction. And then we also have Ms. Tara Walton, who is from the Birmingham Tourism. And so at the end of the presentation, they will be on board to help answer any of your questions or to help answer your questions regarding Birmingham and Montgomery and things of that nature. So I'm happy to have them with me because, as you guys know, I had a lot of help with planning this tour. And so I'm not the expert, but I do coordinate things. I do find myself tapping different people's shoulders, and these ladies were really nice to heed my call. So let's get started. So this is the Civil Rights Tour. We're going to go from Atlanta to Memphis with stops in between. And you know, with everything that's going on in this country and around the world, now more than ever, we must know our history. You have to know your history to be grounded in it, because if you don't know your history, you're destined to repeat it. And you know, I used to in that last picture, that was history to me. You know, this was in the 60s. I'm a child of the 70s. So when I learned about the civil rights movement, that was then. So that's what I thought, that was then. Um, but now is now. You know, this is living history. The struggle does not have a start and the end date. You know, the struggle has a start date. I would say 1619 and probably before, but there's no end date. It's dash. It's 1619 until now. So this struggle is continuing on. So I think it's good for us to constantly to never forget, to know from which we come, to take the best practices of what has helped us to overcome and to use them to continue on. So the same things that we were struggling for 50, 60, 70 years ago, I think that we're struggling still. So I really do want us to learn our history, and it's important for us to teach this to our children. And also, what I'm learning from from some people is it's important for us to learn it, because it's not just the children that don't know it. You know, some adults don't even know the history because it wasn't taught in the schools. So if you didn't, you know, if you didn't have an elder or a church or someone that was passionate about teaching children the history themselves, you may not know it. And for those of you who followed Overton Travel for a while and you know my philosophy, I believe that travel is school without walls. And so a lot of my tours have an educational component to it. and particularly my US based tours. I only do maybe one US tour a year, every other year. Most of my tours are international. But when I do a tour in the US, I do make it educational, and particularly it's educational in the African American realm, that we're learning about our history. So I hope you can appreciate that. So before we get started, I want to kind of show you a video to get you, set the mood for today. So here we go. Let me go to videos here. Oh, let me go back to sharing my screen. Today has been a challenging day with technology, but we're gonna make it work anyway. Okay, can you guys see my screen with the YouTube videos on it? Okay, good. I'm gonna start this video. All right, great. So are you able to see my the presentation again? Yes. Okay, great. So that video just showed some of the highlights of the tours, of the sites that we will see. It won't actually didn't show everything, but it's just some highlights. So I like to do a quick poll question to find out who we have on the line. So I want to take a poll, and I'd like to know how many of you that are currently here, how many of you took part in any of the marches? Okay. And I see some people have raised their hands. So I forgot to give the spiel a little bit. This is a webinar format, and so you can see me, but I can't see you. And so I think someone has I don't know if someone has a dog barking in the back, but you can see me and I can't see you. So if you have any questions, put them in the Q&A box. And at the end of the presentation, we'll go through the questions that you have. And if you want to talk to each other, you can use the chat box feature for that, to say hi to your friends that you see on the presentation on the calls frequently. All right, so I'm going to end the poll, and let's show the results. And so here we go. So here's the poll. Says, oops. I'm sorry. Did I get the wrong poll? Let me see. But the poll had said that most of you guys had done some of the marching previously. So sorry about that. All right, so we're going to go on to the next slide. see if I can get it. Here we go. So I'm going to start by giving you an overview. Yeah.
I'm just seeing your YouTube screen.
You're still seeing my YouTube? You didn't? Okay. Thanks, Donna. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to, like I think I mentioned earlier, I was having some technical difficulties. We've done about 25 of these presentations, but today, well, wants to be difficult. Can you see my overview screen, Donna?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Did you see the last poll result when I was doing that? Was I just talking to myself?
No, we did see the poll results.
Okay, great. Now that was strange. Anyhow, so let's get into the nitty gritty of this trip. So let's talk about the date. The date's going to be September 16th to the 22nd. It's 7 days, 6 nights. So this is not a weekend getaway. This is a week-long journey into learning. So we're going to spend every day learning about the civil rights movement. And if you have ever traveled with me, you know that we do not waste much time. Every minute is used. So I've gotten a lot of questions about, Lori, how are we traveling? Are we taking a bus? Are we taking a plane? Or what are we doing? So let me try to clear this up. So for those of you that live in New York or the New York area, we are going to be flying from New York to Atlanta. So we're not taking a bus to Atlanta from New York. So we're going to be flying from New York to Atlanta. Once we arrive in Atlanta, we will meet our coach. Our coach bus will pick us up along with our tour guide in Atlanta. Then when we're in Atlanta, then we're going to travel from Atlanta to Montgomery to Memphis. That's where we'll be staying overnight. And then along the way, we'll be stopping in Birmingham and Selma and other places. So that's how that's going to work. Now, for those of you who don't live in New York, you can choose to fly there and meet us in Atlanta, or I even have some clients that are already in the South who just want to drive and meet us there. So it depends on how you prefer to get there. But if you're coming from New York, we're flying to Atlanta and then taking a bus. And then when we get to Memphis, we spend 3 nights in Memphis, and then we fly back from Memphis back to New York. Okay, so the cities that we're going to visit during this tour is Atlanta. We start in Atlanta. We spend 1 night there. We visit Birmingham. We visit some of the sites in Birmingham. We don't spend the night there, but we visit sites. Montgomery, we visit sites in Montgomery, and we stay overnight 2 nights in Montgomery. Then we'll visit Selma, and we'll visit sites in Selma. And then we head over to Memphis when we spend 3 nights in Memphis and where we end in the tour. And so that's how that is going to go. All right. Moving on to the next slide. Okay. Also about the tour, I know my clients, I know you like to eat, so we're gonna feed you. We're gonna feed you on the tour. And so we have breakfast included every day at the hotel. So you wake up in the morning, you don't have to go scrounging for food. Each hotel will have breakfast included. We have 2 lunches included as well. We even have an afternoon tea at the Peabody Hotel included for you. So for you to give you a different experience. And we have 3 wonderful dinners included. You know, we cannot go down south without getting some Southern food thrown in here. So we have a mixture of Southern food, and we even, I think one night we have a dinner at BB King's Blues Club as well. So we do have a variety of food offered, so that's great. Also, our tour staff, you will be very well taken care of and looked after on this tour. We will have a tour manager with the group from Atlanta to Memphis. So the tour manager will meet us in Atlanta and will stay with us until we leave in Memphis. So that's great. We also have local tour guides at specific sites. So if we need a tour of say, for instance, I think the 16th Street Baptist Church, we have a tour guide there. Different locations, we have our own tour guides. And then as always, you have an Overton Travel representative on the tour. So it's either myself or someone else on my team that will be on the tour with you. So you'll be well taken care of. All right, and then I'll throw in some pictures of some of the sites that we're going to be visiting throughout the presentation. That's the Center for Civil and Human Rights here. Okay, so let's go through the itinerary. And day 1, what we're going to do, like I said, we're going to fly from New York to Atlanta, meet our tour manager in Atlanta. They'll meet us on the bus. Once we get there, we're going to visit the CNN food court to get you some food and to have some lunch on your own. And then we'll visit the National Center for Civil and Human Rights. So we get off the bus, we eat, and we start touring right away. This is a great way to start the tour. The National Center for Civil and Human Rights is dedicated to the civil rights movement, not just in the U.S., but international civil rights movements as well. Then after we do the museum, we head to the hotel, we check in, and we're staying at the Drury Inn and Suites in Atlanta. And then the Drury Inn, they have a sundowner reception where they give you snacks and drinks. You can eat there. And then also there are restaurants near the hotel where you can go out and get something to eat as well. So that's day one. Day two, what we're going to do, we go from Atlanta, let me move my screen here. We go from Atlanta to Birmingham to Montgomery on this tour. And so some of the highlights of the tour is that we'll be visiting the Martin Luther King Jr. National Historical Park. We'll visit the tombs of Dr. King and his wife, Coretta Scott King. We'll also take a guided tour of the 16th Street Baptist Church. And then we'll also take a tour of the Civil Rights Institute in Montgomery. So that's going to be a full day. And I have a video here that I like to show you regarding the church. So hang in there with me while I get this going. Okay. Can you all see the video? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and it was fairly large, and so it makes sense that meetings would happen there, which would also begin at dark. On Sunday morning, September 15th, was Youth Day, right after Sunday school. Adam A. Collins, Carol Robinson, Denise McNair, and Cynthia Wesley are getting ready to go into the choir.
I remember Addie, I was closest to Addie. We would go to church picnics. Addie and I just gravitated to each other.
Cynthia Wesley was a friend of mine. She was at my school. She was a 9th grader. Just started in September, and I was an 11th grader.
I remember Denise back there always smiling, and she was the only child. And I remember Carol Robinson being quiet, and she played in the orchestra at her school.
Adam A's sister Sarah is also in that ladies' lounge. Sarah said the last thing that she remembers is seeing them helping each other tie on sashes, and then it went dark. We talked about an explosion that reverberates through the entire city of Birmingham. Everybody heard it.
I was at South Overton Baptist Church, and our pastor was shifting kind of nervously across the room and said he had received word that 16th Street Baptist Church had been bombed.
I was in Sunday school class. The building seemed like it was shaking off its foundation. Fumes, smelling fumes, and getting hit in the head. I couldn't find my younger sister. Only later to find out that she was taken to the hospital. She was only 4. She was cut in the head, blood dripping down her clothes and down her face.
Reverend John Cross comes down after the explosion to go into the hole and hears moaning.
My father heard somebody saying, Addie, Addie, and he realized that Sarah was calling her sister's name because that's the last voices that she heard before the explosion occurred.
They find the bodies and they're almost literally stacked on top of each other.
He said they looked like they had been blown together.
It devastated me. It was just so painful to know that these girls were killed at church. They had not done anything to deserve something like that.
That was enough to pull people off the fence. Kids are supposed to be safe at church. This is not supposed to happen in America. We're above this kind of thing. And so this was the catalyst to get some things moving.
Okay, so that was the video that went over, it gave highlights of the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing. And that is that's one of the, I guess, crucial events or pivotal events, bad event, devastating events of the Civil Rights Movement. And we will be visiting this church as part of the tour and as part of the trip, and taking a guided tour of the church as well. So just wanted to highlight some of the things that we'll be doing throughout the tour. So I'm back on my screen. Can you guys see my screen now, the presentation? Or are you looking at YouTube?
Looking at YouTube.
Okay, so let me stop sharing. Okay. Okay, are you back in the presentation now? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so that's going to be a pretty heavy day. We have a lot of heavy days here, but we got to lighten it up as well. So we'll do the touring that day, then we have dinner that night, and then at Martha's Place Soul Food Restaurant. And then we'll be staying at the Hampton Inn and Suites in Montgomery downtown for 2 nights. Very well located property, right downtown in the middle of a lot of historical sites. So I'm very pleased with that location. Okay. Then we're moving on to day 3. Let me go to day 3. Okay. So day 3, we'll be based in Montgomery. And then in Montgomery, we will go to the National Memorial for Peace and Justice. We'll also visit the Legacy Museum. We'll visit the Rosa Parks Museum and the Freedom Rise Museum. And actually this day was actually the catalyst of me creating this whole trip, to be honest with you. I remember several years ago when the National Memorial for Peace and Justice and the Legacy Museum opened up, several of you came to me and said, Lori, are you going to tour? Are you doing a tour? Are you doing a tour through these museums? Because this museum was dedicated to lynching, and it's such a powerful museum. And I had been trying to figure out for a couple of years how I was going to do this. And I decided if I was going to do a tour to these two sites, that I would like to connect the dots and do a tour throughout the South. So that's how this kind of this kind of grew into a week-long tour, and how you can just see the progression of the Civil Rights Movement. So I have one more video for you, because I believe that a picture is worth 1,000 words. I can tell you all about what you're going to see, what we're going to do, but until you see it for yourself in these pictures, I think it really comes to light. So let me share this video with you as well. And this video is talked about the dedication of the National Memorial for Peace and Justice. So okay, here we go. Let me get it back to the beginning.
I not stand here because you can die here. Sit very silently for a moment. Talk to God in your own way for a moment. Talk to God in your own way. Talk to God even now. This memorial challenges the darkness.
Slavery in America was violent, traumatizing, and tragic. It lasted for over 2 centuries, creating a wound that has not healed. After emancipation, Black people were re-enslaved through Jim Crow laws, disenfranchised and unprotected by the rule of law. There was great suffering. But nothing maintained racial inequality more than lynching. Thousands of Black people were drowned, burned, shot, and hanged. Millions fled the American South as refugees. We've been silent about lynching for too long. It's time to end the silence, to memorialize those who died, who fled, who feared the terror our nation tolerated. Only by acknowledging the truth of our past can we have hope for our future. That is the purpose of the National Memorial for Peace and Justice. This is its faith dedication, the blessing of this space.
We gather this morning to remember. We gather this morning in festive and solemn joy to remember and to make present those ancestors, those foremothers and forefathers who made this place and so many places in our country sacred by the sacrifice of their blood. We gather to remember all those whose names are known, but we also gather to remember those whose names are known only by their God.
And we have equality. We have walked through the shadows of death.
But we know the Legacy Museum and this memorial help uncover the truth and help us remember. We remember that pushing Black folks around, that controlling and containing and hurting and humiliating and terrorizing and traumatizing was and is deliberate strategy, state strategy. And only when we acknowledge that truth, when we remember that reality, will we be able to loosen the chokehold of white supremacy over this nation.
We had to walk all by ourselves, but we'll never turn back. No, we'll never turn.
I'm gonna stop the video there. It's quite a long video, but that does give you an idea, a sense of what you'll be seeing at the National Memorial for Peace and Justice. So wanted to kind of set the tone there of what you'll be seeing. And so we'll be visiting that monument, that site during our tour, as well, like I said, the Rosa Parks Museum and the Freedom Rides Museum. So that's that. Then that evening after those tours, we'll have dinner, of course, and we're spending the night again in Montgomery. Wait, so let me make sure. Are you seeing my screen? The presentation is still
Yes.
YouTube.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So that's why I gotta ask. Thanks, Donna. Okay. All right. So that's some of the sites we're viewing. So moving on to the next day of the tour, on day 4, what we're doing, this is going to be on a Sunday. So on day 4, we will be moving from Montgomery to Selma to Memphis. On this day, this is probably the biggest travel day that we have, because before we were local between Atlanta to Birmingham to Montgomery. So this day we'll be doing some traveling on the bus. Now, if someone may have to help me pronounce the Lounge Interpreter Center, that'll be on our list of places to see that day. We will also walk across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. So many of you are familiar with the bridge and what happened there on Bloody Sunday. So it's kind of appropriate that we will walk across this bridge on a Sunday. For those of you that may have mobility issues and can't walk or don't want to walk, you are certainly welcome to stay on the bus and just drive across the bridge. But for those of you who are willing and able, we will take that walk across the bridge. We'll also visit the National Civil Rights Trail, Selma Interpretive Center. That is located at the foot of the bridge as well. And we'll learn more about the trail of the Civil Rights Movement. And then through our driving, we'll also stop in Tupelo, Mississippi as well on our way to Memphis. So Hopefully the driving won't be so bad as we'll break it up with stops along the way. And later on that evening, we'll end up in Memphis and we're staying at the Drury Inn in Memphis. Okay, so moving along. So this is a picture of the Pettus Bridge. That's a recent picture, probably a couple years ago before Congressman Lewis passed away. Okay, so on next couple of days will be spent in Memphis. And then while we are in Memphis, we will visit a National Civil Rights Museum, which some of you know. The Lorraine Motel is part of this complex. This is the place where Dr. King was assassinated, and now they have turned this into a museum. We'll also visit the Slave Haven Underground Railroad Museum. This is one of the houses that was used to hide slaves at during, you know, when slaves were escaping in the Underground Railroad. We'll also visit the Visitor Center, and then true to an Overton Travel trip, if there's a winery, distillery, or someplace nearby, we're gonna stop and visit. So we can't be in Tennessee without trying to taste of its local beverage while we're in Tennessee. So you know, these are going to be some heavy days of touring, some emotional days of touring, and so we got to kind of lighten the load a little bit. So we'll stop for a little taste of whatever your pleasure is, or just do a tour. So I have one last video in here for you. So hopefully you're not videoing out, but this one I think does a good job of showing you what you will see when we go to visit the National Civil Rights Museum. So let's spend a few minutes and take a look at this video here. Okay, let's see it. Hold on. Here we go. Let me start it from the beginning so you guys can.
Lorraine Motel. Follow
I'll push that back a little bit.
Take the trolley down South Main to the National Civil Rights Museum, built around the historic Lorraine Motel. Follow 400 years of African Americans' footsteps, from those made in leg irons to the Long March to Washington and beyond. Featuring the bus on which Rosa Parks took a stand by staying seated, and the Freedom Riders Greyhound coach, which was brought to a fiery stop by Klansmen, the museum is a sometimes sobering experience. But there is no exhibit more moving than Room 306. Peer into the suite where Martin Luther King Jr. spent his final hours before he was slain by a gunshot which reverberated around the entire world.
Okay, so that was that video to give you a little bit of a highlight of what we'll be seeing when we visit the Lorraine Motel. Let me go back. So hopefully you can see my screen there. So we've gone over day 5 of the tour. So we're almost towards the end of the tour. So let's take you to the rest of it. That's the picture of Graceland. The next day is gonna be dedicated to music. So day 6. So I'm excited that we were able to get these items in on day 6. The first 5 days are really dedicated to the marching, the struggles, the challenges of the civil rights movement. But we all know, or if you don't know, you'll learn throughout the tour that there's a soundtrack to the civil rights movement. And the civil rights movement did not only happen, you know, through day-to-day life, through segregation in school, but a lot of the story was told through music. A lot of the struggles were experienced even with the different artists as well, trying to get their music played, trying to get paid for their talents and for their rights and things of that nature. Also, a lot of artists emulated Black artists or were influenced by Black artists. So we'll spend some time at Graceland. I think most of you know the story of Elvis Presley, so we'll visit there. We'll also visit the Stax Museum of American Soul Music. It started out as a record store and then became a studio and now a museum. We'll go through the Sun Studio and we'll visit the Rock and Soul Museum. So this day, I'm excited. You know, we'll be able to probably hear some music that was the soundtrack of your youth or the soundtrack of your parents, and take you back to the time of the Civil Rights Movement. And then even in the evening, we plan on spending the evening and having dinner at B.B. King Blues Club. So this last full day of the tour will be dedicated to music. You know, music is good for the soul. That's the picture of the Stax Museum. And then, you know, unfortunately, they say all good things must come to an end. And so much this tour. On the last day, you'll check out of your hotel in Memphis. In the morning, we do have a visit to the Memphis Music Hall of Fame. So you get a site in there. And then we will end the tour at the Peabody Hotel, where you'll have afternoon tea there before we head to the airport in Memphis and then head back home. If you're flying with the group, you head back home to New York, or if you came on your own, then you head back to another location. So that is the end of the tour. The 7 days of the week-long tour. We cover a lot of ground on this tour, so it's comprehensive. So, you know, some of you said, what are we going to do for a week? Now you know. So if you're interested in booking this tour, you can always reach out to me. You can go to the website, number one, that's your best resource, to go to overtontravel.com, and you can click on the Civil Rights Tour. If you want me to reach out to you or you have questions for me, just put book trip in the chat or the Q&A, and then after the call, you know, I'll reach out to you. You have my contact information here as well. Then you can reach out to me. If you're here, you got the email from me, so you all have my email address. And so hopefully this gave you a good overview of the trip. The website has all the details of everything that we'll be doing on the trip. I couldn't go over everything on this tour. So anyhow, I want to take a poll to see who's interested in taking this tour. And so let me relaunch polling. Okay, I think I may have done that earlier by mistake, but I'm going to relaunch this poll and let me know who's interested, and I'll reach out to you. Also, just a few things about the trip. We're going to limit it to 25 people. So first come, first serve, because we'll be on the bus. I do want to keep social distancing intact as much as possible. As you know, the last bus tour that we took when the museum in Washington, D.C. opened, the the African American Museum, when that opened back in 2017 or 2018, we had that bus packed to the brim with 53 people riding from New York. We will not we will not have that situation this time. There will be plenty of space for you to roam around and to spread out. So we have all right. So we have about 27% said yes. I got some affirmatives who want to take it, and then I have some that are interested in taking it. All right. So for those of you who are interested, who haven't made up your mind, reach out to me, and I can definitely answer any of the questions that you may have regarding the tour, and to let you know if it's right for you, and all the great things that we're going to discover. And so So did I share those are the results right there. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop talking right now, and let's see. I'm going to open it up for any question that you may have. I'm going to let my panels are also here to answer any questions that you may have. We have Donna, who's our moderator, who will be going through the questions also. So I just want to remind you who we have. We have Ms. Marion Nguyen. She's the Senior Manager of Tourism and Convention Sale from Montgomery Chamber of Commerce. So that's Marion. And we also have Ms. Tara Walton, who's the Director of Tourism for Greater Birmingham Convention and Visitors Bureau as well. So Donna, I'm going to turn this over to you, and let me know if we have any burning questions that that are in the chat or in the Q&A box. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. First of all, do we need to have a hat for the lovely tea?
Excuse me?
Do we need to wear a hat for the tea?
I don't know. I don't think so. It's not like when we went to London for tea. I don't think so. But I'll I will definitely confirm that. But I don't believe we do.
Okay. Did you mention the price for the oh, she said that was a joke. But I wanted to know because hey, look, I've not been to a tea either. I've been a little bit of a deprived child. So I don't want to like y'all come in with all those fancy hats and I not have a hat. So I need to make sure. One of the questions is the lady said, I'm planning to bring my son. He doesn't have a passport. What documents would he need? Should he apply for a passport to go?
No, this trip is in the US. We're going to Atlanta. So no passport required for this trip, US based trip.
Okay. Will masks be required?
Yes. So I know I knew, so I had a whole slide, Donna and we had a whole slide about COVID. And I just took it all out because things are so fluid. But some of the things that I can definitely answer for you is yes, masks will be required on the airplane, on the bus, at the museums and sites, anywhere that social distancing is not possible. So you should wear you will be required to wear your mask at those sites. Also will be the reason I'm limiting the tour size to about 25 people or so is so that we have plenty of space on the bus as well. So we're not totally out of COVID now. I didn't want to change this webinar into a whole COVID conversation. We're not totally out of it, but we're still we still need to be cautious. We still need to wash our hands. So there'll be sanitizer galore on the bus. You need to wear your mask. The bus will be cleaned every night. I'm going to request that you guys have assigned seats on the bus, that no rotating seats. If you sitting on the third row on day 2, sit on the third row on day 7. So that'll help eliminate, cross-contamination as well. So we will have protocols and measures in place to help protect you. I don't want nobody getting sick on my trip. Just to be honest with you, I'm like, it's nervous. I'm like, I can't have anybody get, we'll do what we can in our control to help keep you safe. So some of the things that have kept you safe so far, the hand washing, the mask wearing, the social distancing, please continue to do that. I recommend that you also get vaccinated if you are able to. That'll help control as well. I think someone asked if I'm going to require a COVID test. I'm not sure about that, to be honest with you. I just want to be transparent with that because I usually rely on the rules of the countries that I'm visiting. So like if we were going to, Thailand, for instance, and they say you have to have a COVID test, and that's easy, but it's a US based trip. So you can travel throughout the US freely. So I'm working out those finer details of it, but the things that we can just, common sense things we can do, we will definitely implement. Okay. All right, Donna. Okay. Are you there?
Will there be food served at the tea?
Yes, the tea has tea and food.
All right, guys, do you have any further questions?
Okay. Any questions about any of the sites we have? Oh, so someone said all the cost details are on the website. I think it's like 2,728. So it's on the website. Go to overtontravel.com and because it'll list the cost for the tour with air, without air, the tour with insurance and things of that nature. So it's all on the website. And I see some questions coming in about COVID tests. This is a US based trip. So currently there are no COVID tests required to travel within the US. But one thing that I can tell you is things are fluid. So this is April 14th. This tour is not until September 16th. I will update you as it gets closer to the time to go. But if you were flying, tomorrow, you wouldn't need a COVID test to fly into Atlanta. Okay. Okay. Any other questions that we have? And in the meantime, so while you're fielding questions, Donna, and I think there's some people that have raised their hands. So if you've raised your hand, put your question in the Q&A box. And so I want to ask my other two panelists from Birmingham and from Montgomery, is there anything you'd like to share about any of the sites that we'll be visiting that's kind of in your wheelhouse that I don't know, that I maybe didn't mention? So that we should maybe highlight a little bit more.
Hello from Birmingham, Alabama, and thank you so much, Lori, for allowing me to be a part of what's to come in the future, which I consider an eye and heart opening experience for those that may not have visited Alabama, specifically the South. In Birmingham, you will see the 16th Street Baptist Church, and hopefully your guide at the church, because a lot of the members of 16th Street Baptist Church, the senior members, were there on Sunday morning, September the 15th, when the church was bombed. Some of those senior members do serve in our tour ministry. So if you're blessed enough, you may have an actual foot soldier and someone that survived that particular Sunday. Adjacent to the church is the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute. Also there are docents who were and still are foot soldiers here in Birmingham. So as you are preparing to explore and take this journey, Godspeed and good peace to you all.
Okay. Thank you.
And on behalf of the city of Montgomery, Lori, we are so delighted and so thankful that you have compiled this outstanding itinerary. Our newest attraction is the Equal Justice Initiative that, in my opinion, is a must-see. The National Memorial for Peace and Justice, the Legacy Museum, the Legacy Pavilion, really is a heartfelt site, and it has gotten national attention. We've had visitors from all over the world, diverse groups of visitors. So it is a must see, along with all of the other attractions that you have listed on the itinerary. I think you've nailed it. And you just can't go wrong. And in light of everything that's going on in our world today, you really need to come to the South. Come visit Alabama. The perception is still there, but there is so much that has changed. But it is an experience. I just can't express it. So we welcome you, and we're excited that you all are coming.
Good. Thank you, ladies. Thank you for joining this call. Thank you for being a resource for me as well. I appreciate that. We're almost out of town. We have a couple minutes left.
Lori,
John, are there any more questions?
Yes, somebody made a statement at the airports. Will we need to have a COVID test? Because we're in state, do we still have to do a COVID test?
As of today, there's no COVID test required to travel from state to state. Not to get on a plane within the country. No. That is as of April 14th. I would like to give that caveat. As of April 14th, that is the case. No COVID tests are required. I don't think there are any plans to require COVID tests for domestic travel, particularly since we are vaccinating more and more people. But there's never been a requirement, not that I'm aware of, anyhow. So someone correct me if I'm wrong, but there's not a requirement to have a COVID test for travel within the 48 states, I know. So I think if you're going to like Hawaii, or if you're going to some of the territories like Puerto Rico, yeah, you may be required. But if you're traveling from New York to Atlanta, or from Tennessee back to New York, or within the 48 states, there are no COVID tests required to go on the plane. With that being said, I still do recommend that you be vaccinated. So although there's no COVID test, protect yourself. Protect yourself. You know you're going to be on a plane with a whole lot of people, or you're going to be around. I mean, as soon as my turn came to get vaccinated, I rolled up my sleeves. So I recommend that you all be vaccinated. At that point, and definitely this trip is not till September, so there's plenty of time, for everyone to have been vaccinated. So protect yourself, unless you have, of course, some medical reasons why you can or cannot get vaccinated, but definitely protect yourself. Okay.
And just to let everyone know that this episode was recorded, and yes, it will go up on our YouTube channel, so you can share it with your friends and family.
Okay. All right then. Well, thank you all for joining. There are no further questions. Thank you all for joining this Wanderlust Wednesday. It's been a while since we had one, so it's good to be back in the saddle, quote unquote. The next one, I'm not sure when the next one's going to be, but I will definitely be sending you emails and be reaching out to you via social media. I want to thank my two panelists for joining me today. I didn't want to fly solo, and so they came in. So Ms. Mary Wynn, thank you. Ms. Tara Walton, thank you. And always thank you, Donna, for being our moderator. Okay, so reach out to me afterwards with any questions, and have a blessed day, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.